Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. This happened last month. I'm over it, but my family is still hounding me for being a D to my brother. My husband thinks I did the right thing, but I'm sick and tired of getting harassed with "you need to apologize" messages from relatives. Wondering if I should just get it over with. Anyways, some background. I have 4 siblings. My oldest brother is somewhat of a train wreck. When he was 26, he married a 17-year-old girl, knocked her up, then subsequently got married and had 2 more kids. 6 years later, he started an affair with a coworker and left his wife and 3 kids hanging. He's skipped out on child support for over 10 years now. Long story short, the other woman ended up scamming him out of thousands, essentially bankrupting him and forcing him to move back in with my parents. My brother now identifies as an abuse victim because of this woman's scams. He has come to all of us telling us that he's a victim, a survivor of abuse, and that we need to empathize with his trauma. His kids, by the way, still haven't seen a cent from him. His ex-wife pretends he doesn't exist, and he pretends his kids don't exist. Well, during my wedding reception, my brother took the mic and made a big show of making an impromptu speech for me and my husband. It started off well, with him congratulating us, telling us how love like ours is so rare, then quickly segued into him talking about abusive relationships and narcissistic partners, and how he's overcome so much himself, so he knows true love when he sees it. Then he twisted the entire story to make himself sound like the biggest victim in the world. Then, when everyone was teary-eyed and ready to clap, he had the gall to pitch his new book that he's trying to self-publish about his journey from abuse. Most distant relatives who have no idea what he actually did were overcome with emotion, telling him he's a hero and all that. I was fed up and pulled him aside afterwards and told him this was the last straw for me, that I didn't condone him using my wedding as a platform to peddle his nonsense. I told him he could either apologize to me on the spot or he can leave. He left. Well, afterwards, he's told our entire family that I treated him like crap and made him question his worth. My close family thinks he crossed a line, but still want me to apologize to him because he's fragile and trying to do better. My distant relatives now think I'm a monster for tossing a brave soul like him onto the street right after a rousing speech. They think I got jealous of him and tossed him out because I was being a bridezilla. Am I the a-hole for what I did? Should I just apologize and get people off my back? Or should I just keep ignoring them? I'm having second thoughts, even though I'd been so sure I did the right thing at first. Looking for feedback. Thanks. Edit. For everyone asking why I didn't tell people about his kids, well, prepare to pop another blood vessel, but he's made up his own version of that story as well. He tells people that his ex-girlfriend, the other woman, manipulated him into abandoning his wife and kids, that he never wanted to leave, but she was just so manipulative and so abusive that he was literally incapable of not cheating with her. And because she left him for broke, he of course can't pay child support now or ever. I regret now not letting people know sooner, but as a family, we had initially decided to keep our dirty laundry under wraps, which meant my brother's deadbeat tendencies were never broadcast until when he's had the chance to change the narrative. I could still try to spread the truth, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of crap slinging. I do regret my actions because it's caused a heap of problems, but during his speech, my rage just bubbled up and I just had to say something to him. I kinda wish I didn't, and waited until after the reception to tear him a new one, because at the very least, I wouldn't be the villain targeted by family right now. Not an a-hole. And looks like OP's family is playing his game. Seems like his victim strategy works well when they side him, and he's been using it to get away from troubles for a long time. Also, if OP's brother is offended, it is between OP and him. It's not anyone's business to tell OP, an adult person, how to approach another adult person. My wife and I had a daughter before we were ready to be parents. We talked a lot about what we were going to do, and even going into the hospital, we weren't decided. I had asked my mom for help, and she said she wasn't going to help us. She would adopt the baby if that's what we needed, but if it wasn't a full legal adoption, she wasn't helping. We had our daughter and named her a name my wife had picked out, which was traditionally a boy's name. Ultimately, we asked my mom and dad to adopt, and the first thing my mom did was change the name because it disgusted her. My wife thought that was petty and narcissistic, but my mom said she wouldn't never want anyone to think she named the kid that. My mom lets us see our daughter one day a month for a couple hours. It's honestly kind of awkward, and our daughter doesn't seem to love it, but it's better than nothing. The issue is, my wife keeps calling my daughter by her original name. My daughter doesn't answer, but she doesn't seem that upset. My mom said that she can't see her until she starts calling her by her legal name. My wife is very upset and says my mom wanted to steal her from the beginning and that she just wanted a chance to have a girl. I did go the other day to see her, and my daughter was really happy that her mom wasn't there and told me she hates seeing her. I told my wife that she is being petty, and ultimately my mom has all the power, so why fight her? I told her it is her fault for being so petty, and now she is pissed and won't talk to me. Well, no matter the birth name, once you give up a child for adoption, they are no longer your child. Harsh reality. So OP's parents had every right to change her name. OP's wife shouldn't be calling her legal sister-in-law by any other name than the one she wants to be called by. OP's wife is being petty here by trying to use a different name, and it's clearly off-putting to the girl. Now she has resentment towards OP's wife. OP's wife will not see her until she can learn to respect her and use her name, her legal name that she goes by, not one she wants to use for her. Again, at the end of the day, it's not her child anymore. I, 35 female, live with my parents. No kids, full-time job, and pay $650 rent a month. My parents are legally separated, but have stayed living together for the past 10 years. Basically, we all live in a roommate situation. Everyone buys and cooks their own food. Everyone tidies up the communal spaces, and for the most part, we just all do our own thing. 5 years ago, I had my own apartment, but lost my job, car, and good credit. Mom invited me to move back in so I could rebuild, and I've been doing well in fixing credit and saving money. Mom guilts me to stay now because she relies on my rent money. My mom has always been nosy and overbearing. As children, she never gave me or my brother privacy. Now that I'm home again, she's got a habit of doing a quick knock on my door and then opening it before I can say come in. She's obtrusive when I'm on the phone and gets angry when I ask her to leave my doorway. I've nicely requested that she stay out of the room when I'm not home, but I know she goes through my stuff. She calls my room dirty, but it's not. Some clothes on a chair and an unmade bed is not the end of the world. Things blew up when I received a package of lingerie. I immediately tried everything on, and of course my mom picked that moment to leave her room to come knocking at my door. I yelled for her not to come in. She got huffy and went back into her room, slamming the door. I got irritated and took all the new pieces and shoved them back in the shipping bag along with all the tissue paper and clear plastic. I left the package on the chair that I throw my dirty clothes on. I leave for work the next day and come home to no clothes or packages on the chair. I asked my mom if she'd seen it, and she said, "Yes, I threw your trash away and washed your clothes." I kind of lost it. I told her that she'd thrown out $80 of brand new underwear, and she had no right to be in my room in the first place. She yelled back that it was her house, and if I didn't keep my room a pigsty, she wouldn't have a reason to go in there. Today, I went and bought a new locking doorknob and installed it while my mom was out of the house. Then I left for the day. About 2 hours after I left, my mom started blowing up my phone with angry texts, demanding I change the doorknob back, and that I didn't have her permission. When I got home, I completely ignored her and locked myself in my room as she banged on the door and screamed for 5 minutes straight. I'm now looking for apartments. I was saving for a house down payment, but I can't take this drama. Brother says I should have left years ago and that our mom is too manipulative. My friend says that I should not have put a lock on my door without permission and should have just moved out as soon as possible. 4 days in, and mom has yet to apologize for tossing my lingerie. Just gave me the silent treatment until today, when she blew up about the lock. Am I the a-hole for installing the lock? Who cares who the a-hole is here? OP just needs to move out. OP is being manipulated to stay in a toxic situation as a 35-year-old woman. It seems like everyone is staying with the status quo because it's easier to stay the way things are than change. The whole situation is crazy. OP should just leave and get her own living situation that works for her. OP's mom will figure it out. Edit. I will deduct $80 from next month's rent. I will keep the lock on the door and let my mom know that it will be changed back when I leave. I have put the brakes on house hunting for now. I want to save more. For now, I will look for an apartment share situation so I can pay a rent close to what I do now. My brother is nice and would take me in if I was truly homeless. He has his own family and lives about an hour away, so that won't work for me. My mom is not dangerous, although she might be a narcissist and a horrible snoop that took it too far this time. When she's not being ridiculous, she's actually fine to be around. However, I will keep our relationship as low contact as possible for the time being. I have asked my friends to put out feelers for apartment roommate situations in my price range. I am also scheduled for a couple of virtual apartment tours as well as one in person. So yes, I am very serious about leaving as soon as possible. I told my dad about it, and shocker, my mom got to him first and played the victim. He took my side and told her she should have minded her business and stayed out of my room. He offered me money to put towards a new place security deposit, but I declined. Background. My sister was engaged to this guy who was madly, head over heels in love with her. She was his first love, but she'd had many relationships before him. She was engaged to another guy before him and had had many tumultuous relationships. That's mostly due to her violent and extremely narcissistic tendencies. A pattern that we all saw with her is that she'd instigate many fights with the guy, push him away, cry miserably, and play the victim card every time. Then regret how angry and aggressive she got with them, reconcile, and repeat. This same pattern happened with this fiancé over and over, and he'd always be the one to apologize and ask for forgiveness. Until one day, it escalated to the point where she decided to break off the engagement. What he did: tried to call her many times. She wouldn't reply. He spoke with my dad, and my dad agreed to talk to my sister about it. My sister again played victim and was adamant that she no longer wants anything to do with him. She'd always talked crap about him and even made fun of how ugly, disgusting, unattractive she thought he was. It was just sad. Long story short, he kept texting my sister all kinds of sappy crap, their memories, songs, etc. He also started leaving her notes on her car and went so far as to follow her around. Stalking behavior on his part, I know. And she even kept note of the days on which he followed her and the places. It was just an ego boost to her. She wasn't afraid of him following her around, cause she knew he wouldn't harm her. This happened over the course of 4 months approximately. When my brother found out, he told her to report him to authorities so he would back off. But she didn't, because, like I said, ego boost. He's still in love with me. He knows my worth, she'd say. What I did: I've always had a very rocky relationship with my sister. I'm younger. I was subject to the same crappy treatment as her boyfriends, partners, and got to see how manipulative and B she can really be. I won't go into details, but she treated me like absolute crap, basically. I was so sick of it that one day decided to get back at her. And as the saying goes, revenge is a dish best served cold. So I made a fake Facebook account, posed as my sister's close friend, reached out to the guy, and gave enough details for him to know that I knew the story personally. I told him what she'd been saying about him, and that he should cut his losses and move on. The poor guy was petrified, and couldn't believe that while she was bashing him, he was still in love with her and hoping to reconcile. He never contacted her again, and the following her around stopped shortly after that. He got engaged to another girl a few months later. My sister doesn't know about this. She still thinks about him and wonders if she should have given him another chance. The regret has set in. This is a hard one. Yes, the a-hole for sure for what OP did, because of the manner in which she did it. But OP definitely saved the guy's life. He moved on and is hopefully in a relationship that wasn't abusive this time. If there was a category for justified a-hole, I'd file this one in that folder. My mother-in-law retired a few years back, and over the past couple years has talked about getting rid of her car. As both my 36 male and my wife 37 female had aging cars, we had several discussions with the mother-in-law that we would be interested in buying her car should she choose to get rid of it. Back in August, my father-in-law decided to surprise my mother-in-law and bought her a new car. He also decided that since they would have an extra car, they could give mother-in-law's old car to their oldest grandkid, 15 male. Now, the car in question is a 2013, but had under 30,000 miles on it. Mother-in-law said absolutely no way would they just give the car away for free. I also mentioned that my wife and I had been talking about buying the car, especially since my car was in its last legs. Well, father-in-law didn't like this idea and said it was his car. It wasn't. He could do as he pleased. My wife asked that if he was giving a car to one grandkid, would he be doing the same for the other four? Again, father-in-law thought that was a ridiculous idea. At this point, my in-laws began to argue over this, and my wife and I excused ourselves, as it was not our business, even though we were pretty incredulous. The end result was that the in-laws would sell the car to my sister-in-law for $7,500. Well, sister-in-law didn't like that. She said it should be free. This led to further arguments that aren't really relevant. My wife and I let it be known during this argument that if sister-in-law wouldn't buy the car for $7,500, then we would be willing. We didn't pressure them into selling it to us, just said that if sister-in-law couldn't work it out with the in-laws, we would be willing to step in. Eventually, that is what happened, though father-in-law tried to increase the price for us to $11,000, which we refused. Since we purchased the car, my sister-in-law and her family have been making passive-aggressive comments about it and guilt-tripping mother-in-law about the car. So, am I an a-hole for buying a car for my in-laws that my sister-in-law wanted for free? Not an a-hole. Father-in-law did not recognize the can of worms he was opening by offering to give a car to one grandchild, but not any of the others. Mother-in-law appears to have been able to help him see that. Then they set a reasonable price for sister-in-law, grandchild's mother, to buy the car, and she refused to take it if it wasn't free. OP then bought the car. Sister-in-law and her family were upset that OP bought something they did not want to buy, but would have taken it if it was free. I assume she believes that if she just waited long enough, mother-in-law would eventually break down and just give her the car to get rid of it.